Well, thanks very much for accepting.
There's seats up here if anyone wants them.
Thanks very much for accepting the invitation to be here. Normally, as you understand, our board meetings are held in camera, and what we normally consider before we review right today is matters like the usual stuff, minutes of the previous meeting, any reports. We had a review today to report back on, an internal review. The Chief Executive's report. So we've dealt with all that stuff. So we're now going to see the interesting bits, which are essentially those sections of the Chief Executive's report dealing with the strategic plan and some of the initiatives that have been put in place to deal with the way we look, in terms of branding and in terms of the way we present ourselves. And some interesting work already been done is foundation work on membership. Thanks very much. And I'll now hand over to you, Jane, to make the presentation.
Thank you, Richard, and fantastic to see you all here, and lovely to meet you and to share with you some of the progress that we're making very quickly in Freemasons Victoria. You may be aware that we have been on a strategic planning journey for in excess of 12 months, and last week we had a focused set of discussions to really land what are our priorities and what's the direction we want you to be heading in. And further to work of the board, work of a number of individuals over excess of 12 months, we're at this point. So I'm really pleased to share this with you and keen to get your thoughts and input. So, our strategic plan is in its early stages and it will open up with a vision.
Can we make any chance of making it a bit bigger in terms of print?
No?
No?
Make it bigger.
Control C.
Control C?
And then just scroll through us.
Don't worry, because I don't think you need to read it, it's too small. But the point is that the vision...
I don't think that's my message, don't worry.
The vision of Freemasons Victoria, or no, our mission, I'm sorry, is to be a meaningful and relevant organisation in the 21st century that empowers lodges. Empowering lodges is really pivotal through the strategic plan. Members and the community by providing leadership, guidance and administrative support systems to ensure the perpetuity of Freemasonry in this state. And these are the words of our Grand Master. The vision is to be recognised and respected as an organisation of good men who support each other, their families and the communities. And then there is this very detailed vision narrative which says this is what we're going to be thinking in 2025. And it talks about all of the things we're wanting to be heading towards. And when we send this document out, after conversations like this, we will be sending it out to you to actually look at more closely and to provide us with your feedback. And this vision narrative should really encapsulate what we want to look like in 2025, what we want our children and our grandchildren to be enjoying in 2025. Right. Work. At a glance, there are 5 pillars to the strategic plan. One is to build the brand for today's man. And this will be measured by community awareness and what the community think of us, how they conceive of Freemasons Victoria. What does Freemasons Victoria stand for? And it will also be measured through member awareness and perception. What do our members actually think Freemasons Victoria stands for, Freemasonry stands for? So 2 is about attracting membership by engaging today's man. And then measures here are around the numbers of members that we have, but also around the distribution and profile of lodges across the state. Number 3 is about refining the member experience. So we've got building a brand, how we're perceived in the community and amongst the members. Then we've got about attracting membership. And the next is about refining the member experience. So for you, for our 9,500 members, what is the experience like? And this is all about measuring member satisfaction so that you are loving the experience of Freemasonry. You are loving the experience of your lodges, and we're working hard to make you love it even more. And it's also about enablement of leadership at the grassroots because, gentlemen, I'm told when talking to the membership that there are issues out in the lodges, there are issues at the grassroots that have to be sorted. They have to be dealt with, and these require leaders to actually go and work on the tough issues and to help the change process at the grassroots so we can have lodges and we can have experiences for members that really do meet members' needs. There's also this piece around enhancing capacity for compassion. This started off about aligning our philanthropic interests, making sure the Foundation, Freemasons Victoria and the lodges were all on the same page. But it's actually expanded to pick that up, but also to really bring to life the whole notion of brotherly love. How do we look after each other? How do we care for the brother who's fallen on hard times? How do we know about every member of our lodge, where they're at and where they're up to and how they're getting support? How do we build that notion of compassion, which is something that we actually stand for in the tenets of Freemasonry? And here the measures will be around the alignment with Royal Freemasons, with the Foundation, with the Epworth, with Freemasons Victoria and the lodges, all working on the same page. What are the key issues that we want as a community to support, for example? How can the whole be so much greater than the sum of the individual parts? And that lodges are genuinely caring compassionately for their members. They know where their members are. They're ensuring that the care and the compassion is being delivered and realised in the everyday. And finally, this is about strengthening the organisation to enable the change process. The Grand Master was saying to the Geelong Advertiser today that this is probably the most substantial change that we have gone on in our 127-year history. How do we make sure as an organisation, all of our members, all of our lodges, of the organisation, the employed staff, all our volunteers, our directors, our committees, we're all on the same page and we can actually manage this change process, because, gentlemen, change is tough, it's uncomfortable, and we actually have to have the ticker to actually make the tough decisions so that we can have a future for our children and for our grandchildren and their children and grandchildren. So then we go into a set of behaviours, values that will underpin and that we will all sign up to. Behaviours that will bring to light what Freemasonry is about. And that includes things like responsiveness, like integrity, like impartiality and accountability, respect, leadership and human rights. How do we bring these sorts of behaviours to life? And how do we actually really stand by them? And when they're not being stood by, we can actually hold someone, anyone to account and say, no, that's not what Freemasonry is. We actually have to really be true to these behaviours and to these values. We'll be mapping a whole set of ways, look at that, it's absolutely minute, of ways to get involved, ways in which the members can get involved, responsibilities for members, the lodges, the districts, and how we as a whole organisation can get involved. So we will all have particular tasks to actually deliver and realise this plan. And then the strategic plan goes into the detail of what we're going to do in each of those 5 tranches, how we're going to go about building the brand for today's man, how we're going to go about attracting membership by engaging today's man, how we're going to refine the member experience, and how we're going to enhance our capacity for compassion and philanthropy and strengthen the organisation to enable the change process. And then when we look further into the document at this stage, there's a whole lot of notes that we need to capture in local area plans around communications, around membership, around how we run the organisation. And these will all come together to give us a roadmap to take us towards 2025. So that is where the strategic plan is sitting. In that, I'd like now to share with you another piece of work which has been underway. And this is about refreshing our
strategic plan,
brand. Would you like to, or would you like
No, the big question I'm asking from a board perspective.
All right.
From a board perspective,
Yep.
we're proposing that the draft strategic plan be signed off by the board at the December meeting. Do you want you seeking any early input from the board at this stage to what has already been presented?
I would be seeking an endorsement at this early stage to move forward to build on the early draft that we're preparing.
We've all seen the early draft.
Just one,
That was one
I
changed.
That's the latest draft.
It's not the same as that though.
No, that's not the strategic plan.
That's a different document. Sorry, this is...
That's the strategic plan. That's the one.
This document was not the same as what Jane had on.
No, that's just to cut somewhere. That's.
Is this been an email too?
I know it's been handed to you today.
That is the same as what I've just gone through.
I will email it to you.
So in terms of engagement with membership, the board will endorse this.
Oh, some additional things, yeah, some additional things.
So you're looking for early endorsement by the board for the style, essentially, of the, and the key,
Yeah, that'd be good.
the key arrangements of the plan. Come back in December after the organisation's actually worked on the plan for endorsement by the board as a draft plan, and then it will be circulated to the membership over a
Correct.
period of some months.
Absolutely.
You said it been handed out.
I did. Obviously something mistake.
So my thinking is that feedback from the board about issues, variations, any concerns, that then enables me to go forward to continue the drafting of the document, which then enables me to circulate to all of the participants from the strategic planning forum to ensure that there's comfort there, which then enables me to come back to the board in December and then to circulate to the broader membership for input. I'll make sure that I'm sending the right.
So we don't need
It is
a
an
board,
iterative
we don't
process.
need a board resolution at this stage. You're looking at individual feedback from board members.
Sorry, Brother President, the understanding or the explanation has been that each main portfolio, if you like, will have its own strategic plan underneath. Is that right?
Correct. It's local area plan, which will cascade out of the front of the front of the strategic plan, so the summary, the executive summary, and then sitting behind that will be appendices, which will deal with the local matters. So the brand and attracting membership will sit within the marketing and communications plan. The membership, refining the member experience will sit within a membership plan. And there will be, I'm not yet clear on how to deal with the compassion and philanthropic component. That might be something that sits in the organisational corporate services plan, or it might sit across all elements. Some pieces are horizontal pieces and some pieces are vertical pieces. But yes, there is an intent to have appendices which are much more specific and localised, cascading out of the front section of the report. And then the individual performance plans will cascade out of those further. So it's all aligned.
And one of the portfolios is Masonic knowledge.
Yes.
So that has its own specific plan, or is that going to incorporate?
Again, and this is in the establishment of the organisational structure, and at the moment the organisational structure that we're grappling with is to actually have the Masonic influence overlaying everything. So it isn't, it is weaving through the organisation as opposed to in its own
In silo.
silo. Yeah. And so Bruce and I have been working on how that model could possibly work, and certainly with respect to the membership portfolio we see the interdependencies to be absolutely fundamental. But it's not just membership, it's marketing and communications, it's corporate services, decision-making processes, of philanthropy, etc. So it kind of needs to, weave through horizontally across all of the organisation. And so just working out how I think we're probably going to have a three-dimensional, org chart as opposed to a two-dimensional one.
Any further questions? Any further questions from board members on
I'm
that?
just getting briefly back to this document. Can we not get it electronically so that...
Yeah, it was only the changes made this morning to it, which I've updated on points. I will send it out following this board meeting.
Absolutely.
And we've got some days,
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
plenty of time to comment.
Yeah. Week?
Good. We wouldn't want to rush
It's a
anything
long
through it,
time.
would we? No.
Okay, so the next part of my presentation, if that's okay, Richard, is to actually talk about where we're at with regard to the brand refresh. And so the intent here is to consider how we want to look and feel in the marketplace. What do we want our imagery to look like, our collateral, our communications? How do we want, our printed matter and our online matter to be looking? And how do we make sure that we protect those, fundamentals? And we've learned in this journey that the fundamental absolutely is the square and compasses. It is the essence of what we stand for. But there is an opportunity to possibly polish that, to bring it into 2016 and to head us towards 2025. We're looking for a new fresh look and feel. So, we have been working with this notion of a new colour palette, and after a lot of, sort of discourse, the sense of the craft blue is seen to be an important quality to have in our new fresh look and feel. The gold of the regalia and the black of the dinner suit, it is seen to be an important, combination that could give us a new look and feel along the lines here in, say, corporate stationery, where the craft blue is coming forward. We've got the lovely gold of the regalia. We've also got the black of the dinner suit. But we're starting to actually think about how might we perhaps move from Freemasons Victoria to something that's a bit smarter and never losing Freemasons Victoria, but perhaps cascading or titrating up to FMV to be a little bit sharper and give us the capacity for a little bit more flexibility in look and feel. And you'll see here that we're starting to build a system where everything comes back to the square compasses, the name of the organisation, and we start to look at what the possibility could be for, say, the cover of a magazine. Now, these images here represent real members. These are not models that we have paid a lot of money to. These are our handsome real members who are being used to represent what Freemasonry stands for. And that will be a very important part of our way forward, that we are showing, authentic real members in action. Chunking, being a bit tighter in terms of FMV rather than Freemasons Victoria, but always having Freemasons Victoria there so there's no doubt. Showing the real faces, the real people, bringing forward good men supporting each other, their families and the community, all based in the square and compasses, all referring back to the key lessons. The third degree, building your legacy, how do you want to be remembered? Here, brotherly love in action, young Freemason being supported by wise elder and wrapped around by other members.
Jane, can I ask a quick question? Would our parties that we wish to brand with in the future, do you think they would, is that the way they're going? Is that the sort of the branding that they've got, so we can, sort of be seen to be not only aligned in practice but also in our advertising?
Yeah, well certainly if you look at, we've spent a lot of time looking at contemporary, lifestyle and lifestyle magazines really for younger men, and this is sort of a look and feel, although I must say, I was keen to sort of push things a bit further. And in briefing the Grand Master and Deputy Grand Master last night, I was told that we don't want to look like a dental association, we actually want to look really sexy. And so I'm going to push this even further so that we are actually starting to, I think there's more opportunity to push forward. At the same time, I want to make sure I'm bringing the members along with me, so I don't want to go, too extreme, but I think I have the imprimatur from the leaders to actually push a bit more. Here, concepts like, member since 1985, future member, his son, looking towards the future. This is really just look and feel. This is not going to be what we're going to end up with, but we start to get a system here where we can enable the lodges to be part of this look and feel. We can retain their own identity here, their name of their lodge, all coming back to FMV, all coming back into the square and compasses. And
So every lodge essentially would get a corporate style manual, would they?
absolutely, and they could all, we're all part of the same family. We're not off doing our own separate things as separate entities. This is how we all wrap ourselves together as part of the family of Freemasons Victoria. Again, these are concepts, early stages, but wanting to share with you to get a sense as to the sort of direction that we're going in. Oh, that's very big. Might be a bit too big. Again, real people. Real people. Oh. So looking at what the website might start to look like, the front page of the website, you know, real people, real stories. And these, I'm hoping, are going to be portals to our family, you know, portals to our lodges, to our foundation, to the Royal Freemasons, to our partners like Mirvac, for example. You click on there and you go into their Mirvac, or click on there and you go into the Eastbourne site. So this website, Freemasons Victoria website, is an exciting portal to a world of Freemasons experience. And always coming back to, are you interested in getting involved, participating, be part of a lasting legacy, opportunities to shop in a contemporary way that's not clunky but nice and easy, to show our partnerships and to come back into our, you know, key corporate details. So, the intent here is to share with you the directions we're going on. It's not to ask you to say, yes, I love it, or no, I hate it. It's more for you to, you know, think about it, think about whether this is going to be a comfortable direction. It's a change, it's a different look and feel. But we have this opportunity to actually come forward with, you know, a new, fresh chapter. And I think that's exciting. I hope
I might have mentioned this while I was out, but in terms of the colour, the dominant colour, you mentioned that? Yeah, sorry. The dominant colours of this, it's dominating a magazine, for example.
yes.
We're moving away. Okay.
Jane, just one quick one.
Yeah.
Considering Freemasons Victoria, according to Rule 2 of the Constitution, is 5 degrees, which includes mark and chapter. Here we're only looking as though we're having the square encompasses, but has been any thought of encompassing the other 2
Absolutely.
degrees?
Absolutely. And in the website thinking and in the conversations with Chamar, for example, and not just Chamar, but the whole family tree, how can we embrace and be as one family? There have been very positive conversations about bringing that closer together. I would see the website, the front page would be, you know, a portal into the particular website for the other degrees, and that there is that real connection in terms of the brand and the communications, and we're presenting ourselves as one family rather than disparate entities.
I'm thinking more of the FMV letterhead, if you like, or the logo, it would indicate we're still talking about the Blue Lodge. And yet we have many members who are not supporting the Blue Lodge, although they're members of the Blue Lodge, but are specifically members of the Martin chapter.
Yes.
Forget about all the other degrees, because they're not part of our constitution, our recognised constitution. Correct.
In talking with representatives from Markham Chapter, I get a strong message about all their members need to be part of the craft, and the craft is the basis, the foundation from which they transcend up our degrees. And so I sense that there is this, you know, agreement to the foundations, but that there are these opportunities to go beyond. So I take your point, and I'd like to, you know, I'd like to consider it further and talk with those representatives further. But I do sense that there is an interest in actually coming together more and more.
So just one of the items on the weekend was the imperative to actually have an app so that you can all have it on a smartphone.
Yep.
So when you're developing this package, presumably that is part of it, so you can actually have it on a phone. Is that right?
Absolutely, definitely. And a mobile website as well. But having everything, you know, through the gateway of an app in a very convenient way is definitely on the agenda. part of the suite of communications, of engagement of members, being able to engage in a much more dynamic way, but also of enhancing the member experience. So it's more seamless and less a cacophony of activity rather than a clear navigatable journey.
And what's your time frame for rolling this out?
I am planning that in the first week of November we will have a new fresh, first week of December, sorry, a new fresh website with a new fresh community gallery as an important part of that website, showing many of the faces of Freemasons and telling their story about why they love being part of this organisation, but also learning about them as a personal touch. A new magazine, the December magazine, will have our new look and feel, and that will commence, the new fresh journey.
So the new magazine won't have a date till...
That's the plan. Okay. Now, I do also just want to share quickly, and I need to run through this quickly because there's a lot in it, but we've been doing a lot of work on what, who, why, where, today's man. Who is today's man? So we have identified the need to be data-driven, to make sure that everything we're doing is firmly based in evidence. It's not something that I think is a good idea or that you think is a good idea. It's actually something that the evidence is validating. And so to that end, we need to undertake a substantial piece of research to really understand who are today's men, what do they look for, where are their needs, and how can Freemasons Victoria well meet those needs. And so we haven't gone through a transparent EOI process, encouraging market researchers to express interest in a brief. We've gone through a rigorous assessment process and selected a company called Brand Hook, who is assisting us on this journey. The journey to understanding from Brand Hook's perspective is mapped out here, and we are at stage 1. No, we're at stage 2 actually. So we have undertaken a literature review. We've looked at all of our existing research, all of the surveys that have been undertaken in Freemasons Victoria, and we've also looked at all of the literature about men, and we've had them come back to us and give us this presentation just yesterday about today's man, setting the scene. So these are the reports that have been looked at, a whole set of literature, the new dad, Man Up. Has everybody seen the Man Up series on the ABC just recently? A very, really fabulous piece. I strongly recommend it on iView if you have the chance. Literature around volunteering in Australia, men's social connectedness, older men's wellbeing through community participation in Australia, and the new dad, caring, committed and conflicted. And what we were looking for here was how men define and measure themselves, what is important to them right now, what is expected of men today, where the tensions exist, and the role that social groups could play in their lives. And I encourage the Grand Master and Deputy Grand Master to contribute to this because you were part of the presentation, please. In the past, to understand today, we need to understand what happened yesterday. And the role of men in the past, men and women, were largely traditional. Men worked in male-dominated workplaces and provided for his family. And women stayed at home to nurture the family and raise the children. In 1996, Australians in the workforce aged 18 and over, women 34% and men 82%. This, more recently, has been completely turned around. It is a much more equal distribution in the workforce. So Robert Brannan released the Blueprint for Masculinity in 1976, and he said, a man, a good man, has these 4 pillars. 1, no sissy stuff. Men are to avoid being feminine, show no weakness and hide intimate aspects of their lives. 2, The big wheel, men must gain and retain respect, power, and are expected to seek success in all they do. 3, the sturdy oak. Men are to be the strong, silent type, by projecting an air of confidence and remaining calm no matter what. And 4, give 'em hell. Men are to be tough, adventurous, and never soft and gentle. So,
That's me.
today's man, though, is a little bit different. Largely driven by the movement of women to gain gender equality, things have been shaken up. And today's man operates in a different way. 64% of them have a spouse working outside the home. 34% of you do more housework than your spouse. 31% of you earn less than your spouse. And 24% of you take on more parenting responsibility than your spouse. So women are driving change beyond the workforce, and I think the message here we see with these sorts of representations that women are fighting for gender equality, for diversity in the workforce, awareness of violence against women. There's some very interesting campaigns. This one here called Throw Like a Girl. Some research undertaken where young children, down around 3 and 4 years of age, asked to throw a ball. And boys and girls were told, throw a ball like a boy, and they throw the ball. Throw a boy like a girl, and they throw the ball. As the ages got older, the throw a ball like a girl was really soft and gentle. The throw a ball like a boy was really hard and rough. And we can see as we get older that the gender stereotypes are still present. And this is today, this is contemporary research. So today's man is forced to react since the ideas of yesterday, and to adjust and change to the, and adjust and change to being at home. And we see there's lots of literature, raising boys. Stephen Benoff talks about, how to raise boys, how to try and enable young boys to be able to reflect the needs of today's man. Walking in shoes, there's this whole blurring of the gender stereotype now. This walking in her shoes is, see men there walking in high heels trying to get a sense of what it's like to actually be a woman, and actually saying, well, we actually do want to be spending more time at home with our families. We do want to be part of the domestic space more. And yet it's expected that we're working and we're, earning, we're able to fix everything that needs to be fixed, to do both things, to be yesterday's man and today's man. So in 2006, we see what it is to be a man under scrutiny. We see here with, some of the comments that have been part of the Trump campaign, that some of these behaviours are being challenged, and the Twitter campaign, coming forward, 9.7 million responses in 24 hours about Donald Trump saying that some of these more negative messages are just boys' behaviour, and in fact the community is saying no, that's not enough. Very quickly, decent men were screaming out and saying that it's men today want the world to clearly know that they are a far cry from the men of yesterday and the stereotypes of what it used to be yesterday. Men want more today. So, please, Don and Keith, contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, we'll get there.
So, men do not want to be the same as their dads. They think back and realise that they knew little of their dads, that they were always out of the home, away from the kids. They don't want the same memories for their kids. Therefore, the measure of what it is to be a man is shifting from physical toughness to include emotional factors. And this emotional growth is causing men stress and actually leading, we know, to physical and mental illness, because it is a real challenge to try and be everything. Today's man doesn't have a clear-cut definition of who they are now, and this is causing conflict and confusion for them. So, there is some interesting media and interesting research around the way in which men are being presented in the media. In fact, we looked at some advertising yesterday where, men are actually presenting themselves as being that much more emotional connection with their children, that connected father, and how, there was a Huggies ad that we saw with men, sort of in the paradigm like three men and a baby, being silly and not being able to cope with caring for their children. And in fact, men have revolted on social media saying, don't represent us that way. We actually are well able to manage matters in the home as well as manage matters in the workplace. And we actually want that as well. We want to have this much broader role in today's life. And so men are actually, going on this emotional journey, and we're arguing that our organisation has a real opportunity here to meet the needs of men. And I see here John, who does so much fantastic work in this space in terms of, this conflict and this turmoil that, is the reality of being a man today. There are real opportunities for Freemasons Victoria to be able to provide the support and the guidance and the mentorship. So the confusion is stemming from men wanting to help their mates but needing permission to get involved, and wanting to receive support but not wanting to ask for help, wanting to spend time as an active and involved dad but also have a role as a breadwinner and don't feel entirely comfortable to choose to stay at home. And women want them to be emotional and good listeners, but also want them to take charge and provide all the solutions. So there's all of these, expectations that are at play. This is an interesting quote which has been written by Peter Papathanassiou, who is a writer with The Guardian in the UK. And he was asked, he's a 41-year-old writer who was born in a small Greek village, grew up in Australia, and for most of his adult life was based in Canberra. He now lives in London and is a regular contributor to The Guardian. He was asked to actually write a piece to sum up what it means to be a man today. He said, when I was young, my dad repainted the kitchen and replaced our Cortina's carburettor while Mum made me toast for breakfast and washed my grass-stained clothes. Today, I'm more likely to look up a recipe by a celebrity chef and prepare a delicious family dinner while my wife fixes the lawnmower and unblocks the drain. And yet I'm expected to have the skills for both. Dad dropped me off at football tryouts once, twice, and then stopped, preferring instead to return to his regular Saturday afternoons at the betting shop. Today I'm expected to drive my son to multiple sporting events, stay, cheer positively, and likely even coach. Dad was the sole breadwinner. Today my wife makes more than me. Dad smoked high-tar cigarettes and drank whiskey. I eat quinoa and drink green tea. Relatively speaking, Dad had it easy. He knew what to do. The roles were clear. Being a modern man is confusing, challenging, and everyone has an opinion. Least of all, your better half, who, let's face it, is the opinion you should probably listen to most of all. And that's probably what being a modern man is, understanding how women think, being emotional and yet strong, a listener, a gentleman, a chef, a mechanic, and ultimately a role model to the next generation of men coming through. They're likely to do everything that modern men now do 10 times more. So we better prepare them well for it, because no doubt the day will come when my son looks back at how easy his old man had things. The issue is things are getting more and more complicated. So if we look through the life stages, in our 20s, life is about world travel, self-improvement and idealism. And here the argument is that it's actually about how do I build my personal brand? How do I set myself up for, men in their 20s today? The research is saying that it's how do I set myself up for the future? How do I set myself up to be able to get a good job? How do I set myself up to be able to get a good partner? How do I make myself look good amongst my mates? It's, what is it that's going to actually assist me to achieve my goals that I'm looking for into the future?
It's interesting, Jane. That probably resonated with me yesterday the greatest, because, of course, my partner has a 20-year-old and female, but Charlotte is she's a great kid. But everything that she does seems to be, to me, having grown up you know, in my era, seems to be about just having a good time. It's all about her, and this idea of not saving for a house or not caring about a lot of that. And in fact, what I understood yesterday more than ever was that the house is way out of her range. So what's the effect? Only a week ago she got on a plane and she's gone for 3 months to Thailand. And what that really is about for her is self-awareness, self-development, something that at a time in the future she can actually place on her CV, that it becomes a personal development. And I really, up until yesterday, had no idea. I thought she was just being selfish, and it was all about her to the exclusion. You know, the 20s me. And yet what I found yesterday in going through a lot of this was really what she was doing is she was actually discovering herself, rather than the traditional, what we would have been doing is putting the pennies away, making sure that we had a house at the end. So that was a real telephone.
Young men have a desire to give, share and learn. Their lives are full of social opportunities. They can easily make connections through the way they live. They don't actually need to make social connections through, say, an organisation like ours, but they are interested in how can I actually set myself up, how can I build my own personal brand. So in 30s, life is more about family, health and newfound wealth and making goals. Very busy time, work-life balance. Little me time, family, you know, responsibilities. Peers are moving on different trajectories, and friends are being replaced by wives and partners who are driving the social connections. And here we're starting to see a sense of disenfranchisement because kids come on and social connections are about going to, you know, play group or, you know, school, you know, gatherings, etc. And the partners are actually, you know, setting the agenda there. So some of those mates who you might have had at uni are kind of dropping off and they're going off on their own trajectories. Men in their 30s are at high risk of feeling isolated due to the changes in their family status. Increased workloads and friendships are drifting apart. In order for a group to appeal to a man in their 30s, groups need to first provide a common interest, and we were talking a lot about this third space, which I think is a real, you know, a real opportunity for us. That, you know, yes, there is the workplace, yes, there is the home place, but where is the me place, the place to get that support and connectedness?
And I think we also found out with this, Jane, that in the 30s, this is where the possibility of suicidal tendencies start to manifest. Men are too busy. And their lives are being dictated by their partners. So, you know, there's this tendency to sort of, you know, I'll you know, get rid of myself and then I feel good about myself. But, so that's where that starts.
And in the 40s, life is about career versus parenting, financial security and safety. Kids are growing up, my God, I haven't got enough in the super fund. You know, how am I going to deal with, you know, the school fees and the university, HECS, etc. And this is a time when home and relationships are biggest at risk. 42% of marriages are ending in divorce, and the median age is 42 years. 37% of men are not satisfied with the quality of their relationships, typically because they don't feel emotionally connected or supported. And so there's real risks here, biggest risk of breaking down. Men need to be given the confidence and reminded they have permission to seek out support. Real opportunities here for groups like ours. Then as we go into the 50s, it's more about giving back, guidance, confidence from experience. Opportunities here to, you know, to actually want to share wisdom and learning with others. Strong desire to give back through the vehicle of mentoring and sharing, another really significant opportunity for us. 61% of 30 to 65-year-old men have lost contact with more friends than they would like in the past few years. We create an opportunity to actually make friends and connect and engage. And in the 60s, life is beyond re-establishing purpose, learning and reconnection. And beyond, as we grow older, it seems men are looking for a renewed sense of purpose, of giving back to community, providing a sense of purpose. However, they feel uncomfortable searching for groups to join themselves, and they need to be reassured that this is an okay thing to do. And organisations like ours provide real opportunities here for men to be able to give back and reconnect. 73% of men aged 60 to 65 are satisfied with the quality of their relationship, higher than their younger age brackets, but they're actually looking for this third place to reconnect and give back. So I think, there are some real learnings in here, where we've got real opportunities for, attracting new members, for retaining new members, understanding better the life cycles and the psychographic and the psychometric, sort of activities that are happening for men at different stages. This work is continuing. We're at the very early stage. There are some deep, immersive, stakeholder conversations about to happen, and then a series of focus groups. And the learnings from all of that will then be complemented by a member survey to help us to better understand how we can, connect with the right sorts of men at the right stages in their lives, and what sorts of offers we can best give to them, and how we can build our brand and what we stand for to best meet the individual targets. This is not a one-size-fits-all. We're learning that men at different stages in their lives have very different needs and interests, and so while we will stand for something in the meta form, we will need to have different sets of messages, different sets of opportunities for different age groups as we move forward.
Mr. King, your time to get back to. Thank you.
Well done, John. Thank you.
So I was going to say the decisions you're looking for in this board, but firstly, we want some early comments on the, basic outline of the strategic plan. So we'll go out electronically. Do you want any comments from us on, I think you'll seek comments from us on the branding?
Any concerns, issues, yes, please.
Please. So that report will also be issued electronically?
Correct.
Yep.
Jane, just on the web page, whilst you showed an image of it, is there a prototype or something that we can...
Not yet. There will be. The architecture is being designed and currently, and most certainly that will be available.
And Jane, some form of summary of the branding and research too would be very useful for us to share with our New Zealand counterparts.
Oh yes, fantastic. Absolutely. My hope is we've communicated, thank you, Grand Secretary, with the states about this journey that we're on, and we have made a commitment to show and share some of this when we go to New Zealand to the conference here.
Any further questions from the board members?
Just really briefly, so a main point we can take away from your conversation today is that whereas perhaps in the past we've been a little bit broad in our brush, we're now going to be more targeting individual age or demographics rather than hoping that we'll be able to attract everyone with the same message.
I think we're going to be refining our brand to meet particular target segments. We're going to need to think about who really should we be engaging, and what should we be connecting with them about. What can we offer them? What will our brand value proposition be for those segments? And then how do we build the experience to offer them, and the communications to go to them. And I think a lot of this is to do with what's happening at the grassroots. We may actually find that we might want to establish some new lodges that offer different sorts of experiences for different markets. Once we've gone through this journey and we better understand where the needs could be met.
Because that becomes the trick delivery on the promise.
Absolutely.
So the we in that, in your comments then, is the organisation as a whole. But then we still have to somehow get that message to the lodges and to the individuals. So we're going to have a strategy in place on how to reach them and demonstrate to them the value of what you're finding out.
Yes, so I think, yes, there will be a communication strategy, and there's a lot of work happening on how best to enable the communications, multifaceted communication strategy. So there's all the, electronic communications that go out on a weekly basis, the website, etc., social media, the outreach programs like this, coming and talking to everybody, receiving feedback. But we need to go well beyond communication. We need to go to engagement. This is not going to be something that I can do. It's not going to be something the board and I can do. This is something that needs to be delivered by the membership. Every individual needs to take some responsibility in this journey. And an important part of the strategic planning focus has been the need to really amp up the leadership and mentorship activity that's happening at the grassroots, to be the agents of change, to be, the purveyors of, these new ideas and exchanging of ideas and developing things at the grassroots, enabling and empowering at the grassroots. That mission that the Grand Master has at the front of the strategic plan is about empowering lodges to make the necessary changes that are required to be successful.
Jane, sorry, would an example of that be younger men these days aren't confrontational, they're very time poor, so they don't like to be in a lodge that argues about a $2 increase in dues.
Absolutely.
Things like that. Is that a practical manifestation?
Fringe factors.
That's a complete, accurate an example. And I would say that there are at least 253 lodges, at least 253 sets of problems, and probably many more that we need to work through, and we need to resolve, and we need to move into a space that's going to actually be engaging for existing members and new members.
Thank you.
That's really the end of the board meeting. All the directors will be sent, if you haven't been sent already, a survey monkey survey on how commenting on the way today's meeting was conducted.
It'll go tomorrow morning.
Received it before the meeting.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I spoke to Simon, I hadn't got the results of the last board.
Probably got a
No,
firewall that doesn't exist. but
No,
Bill, we normally in the last few minutes we appointed a reporter to report back on how the board meeting was conducted. Bill, you made some observations?
I think the board meeting's been great. I think we've dealt with the matters on the agenda well, in a timely manner. And I think it's been great that we've been able to open up to members that are here and can see what it is, or some of the things that are happening in Freemasonry. It's enlightening for the members that have been able to attend today. You'll see that we've got a lot on our plate, and there's a lot to be done. But we're striving to get it done, and also in a timely manner, so that we can deliver on our promise. So I think it's been a great meeting today. And it's good to be, whilst I come from the other side of Melbourne, in Gippsland and Bush, we've
Bruce Paradise, really.
Yes, we've committed ourselves to go to the country or to a regional centre once a year, and whilst I lived in Geelong 43 years ago for a year, I wouldn't call Geelong the country, but it's still great to be in Geelong and to share this with you guys, and you can see what it is that we're doing. So it's been great.
Thank you, Bill. Our Grand Secretary wishes to make some comments. This is a very special occasion for him, so I'm going to invite him to make a statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother President. It may not be absolutely apparent, certainly wouldn't be to the rest of the members who have joined us today, which I think is a marvellous advance. It's the first time in my living memory that members have been, outside of the board, have been brought into the board meeting and allowed to be exposed to some of the discussions. And as Brother Bill says, there is a lot going on. And I'm very pleased that it's happened in my time on the board, because today is effectively my last meeting as a member of the board. And in that same breath, I encourage all of you members to vote in the affirmative for the constitutional changes that are going to be put to the December communication, because if you don't, I'll be back on this board in January. But I announced my intention not to renew my contract some time ago, which has given an opportunity to start and explore this journey that the board is now on, and I think it's a very exciting journey. I think it's one that needs to be embraced by all members, and the communication that's starting to roll out about that journey, I think, is fantastic. And I can only encourage those members that are here that aren't members of the board to make themselves aware of what is happening and be part of that journey. I've been privileged to be part of this board, which I initially joined in 2002 as the Grand Master's representative. and that was by virtue of my chairmanship of the Homes. I then rejoined the board in 2006 as Grand Treasurer for a period of 4 years, and for the last 6 years as Grand Secretary. So I've seen a lot that's happened, and I'm still convinced that now is the most exciting time in our history. But there has been a number of significant advances in Freemasonry in that period, to which I've been privileged to be a part of. Things such as a significant undertaking to secure the funds as a result of the sale of the Freemasons Hospital for the benefit of our general fund and all members. It effectively meant that the net sale proceeds that came from the hospital were able to be utilised for the benefit of all members rather than quarantined in a fund for medical purposes. I think one of the best projects that will yield great financial security in the future is the development of Albert Street, the Eastbourne project, which has been a project that's been going for some time, and I was privileged to be part of that, the initiation of the project when tenders were called, and still part of the project control group that is managing the development, which will at no financial or operational risk to this organisation yield some fairly substantial financial returns, and of course a brand new property and headquarters for us in Albert Street for completion towards the end of 2019. I've seen the formation of the Freemasons Foundation Victoria, which I think was another very far-sighted initiative of this board to secure under better regulatory and prudential arrangements those funds that had previously sat in the Benevolent Fund. And we're privileged yesterday to attend the annual general meeting of the Foundation and understand the work that it's doing and the significant contribution it still makes to charity and compassion on behalf of Freemasonry. I never thought in my wildest dreams we would produce a TV show, let alone 2 of them. But we did that in the last 5 years, aimed principally at creating awareness for the organisation, which was terribly successful, and got our message to over 600,000 viewers at a per head cost of 30 cents. I still defy anyone to get the message of such impact to members at that cost. We've improved our financial probity in terms of the significant investments the organisation has to protect the future, and we took the far-sighted step to appoint professional fund managers, JB Weir, who have guided us very soundly, particularly through the global financial crisis, to maintain the corpus almost intact and spring forward. I don't know what's happened since President-elect Trump has come in, but I think our funds are still safe.
Market's up 3% today.
Well, roll on inauguration. A particular pleasing initiative for me has been the almost 94% compliance with essential services and operational health and safety measures in all of our Masonic centres around Victoria, securing not only liability against claim for centre owners, but also Freemasons Victoria. And our building program, I think, has been second to none in the last 6 years, where just about every Masonic centre has been touched and improved, and starts now to project a contemporary image, which we all should be proud of. And of particular interest and pleasure to me has been the establishment and creation of a professional library and museum, which now knows what we've got in terms of our history and heritage, and allows opportunities for members to explore that through a very professional setup. And also is creating great awareness amongst the academic community about the history of Freemasonry. So these have been some of the things that this board and our staff and volunteers and all involved have been part of. And it's not to underplay the great journey we're on now, but we have come a significant way in that period. I've also been very privileged to be associated with a number of quality individuals, people who are genuinely inspired to look to the future of this organisation for the benefit of all of its members. And far too often, ordinary members in our warranted lodges are too willing to throw bricks in at the house and criticise what this board does. Members outside the board have only got a glimpse of what happens in these board meetings today. They're terribly motivated men and women who have the future of Freemasonry at heart and demand all of our support. Of course, over that period there have been some very good and inspiring times, and there's been some professionally and personally challenging periods for me. But overall, I can say that my journey has been a fantastic one but the Freemasonry I will be exposed to. I'd like to formally thank and have written into the record my deep appreciation to the past and current board for the support, the understanding, the friendship and the wise counsel that they've provided to me in a personal and professional capacity. And I wish this board and its successors, as well as the executive and management of Freemasons Victoria, all the very best for the future, because as I said, it's an exciting future and one in which we can all share. And I pledge my ongoing commitment to Freemasonry in whatever capacity it and Freemasonry sees me able to perform. Brother President, thank you for the opportunity of not making an inaugural speech, but whatever the opposite end of that is. In closing, I wish you also personal success for the future, and look forward from a member's point of view now to enjoying the fruits of your labours.
Given the time, I could go on for an hour on this subject, but I won't. I think from the chair I ought to move that this board acknowledges the fine contribution of Right Worshipful Brother Henschel to the strategic life and the management of Freemasons Victoria over a significant period since, as you said, 2002, and wishes him the very best with effect in any future endeavours he wishes to undertake, and we look forward, I guess, to his future participation in this organisation, which I'm sure will be unceasing. So will you carry, I'd like you to carry that by acclamation.
We do realise, of course, there is actually 3 vacancies for the members of the board.
Indeed there are.
Yes.
Indeed.
I'll speak to you later.
Well, that concludes the board meeting. We're now to move to the custody board area. Is that right? Oh, no, the ante room for the lodge building, the lodge room, and then we'll have a forum. Is there any food prior to that, by the way?
Yes, the board just stay in here, there'll be some sandwiches going for you.
Okay, thank you.
If everybody else can move up,
Let the meeting closed.
if everybody else can move up to the top, there'll be the floor